I'm Randall. I have opinions about the developer career path. A lot of them stem from my own weird, convoluted career, where at one stop, I was an instructor at a boot camp. And I got to see people come in with absolutely no development experience and then spend 3 months really intensively knuckling down and studying and figuring out what is this coding thing that everyone's so excited about. And one of my students, one of my best students, he stayed late every night and was just eating up anything I could throw at him. Sent me a message about 6 months after he graduated. Now, this student had landed his dream job. He had an excellent startup. He found the strong mentorship culture, interesting problems to tackle. And he sent me a message. He says, "Randall, I think I made a mistake." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. I've got a tarp out back and a shovel. Where do you want to hide the body?" He said, no, not that kind of mistake. I think I picked the wrong career. Like, what? Well, hold on. You're like one of the best students. You got this great job. You're doing fantastic. What happened? He said, well, my team went out to lunch. My team has people from, me. I'm just getting started. And there's other people with, 15, 20 years of experience developing. And by and by, during the lunch, it came out that, well, everyone on the team thought they weren't going to be in development within 12 months. So I was like, wait, hold on. What happened? Did they not like coding? Did they not enjoy the work they do? I said, no. In fact, they loved programming. But they were really reluctant. They didn't want to leave programming. But they felt in order to advance their career, they had to go, and let's all sing along now, into management. Who here has heard that before? Now, I think this boils down, this is a huge problem. This is not original just to my student. A huge problem that we face, and I think it boils down to this question. What does senior mean? And I mean this in the context of senior software engineer, that title we like to give ourselves. Does it mean, perhaps, a person who wears silly hats? I hope so. So I went out and I polled a whole bunch of my friends. I said, let's tweet it out and ask on Slack and different places. What does senior mean to you? And my own story is when I was the young buck developer, and I was at a startup and it wasn't that great, so I went around interviewing, and I got an offer. Fantastic. From a consulting company with the title of senior software engineer at 10 months of experience. And it turns out that they're a consulting company. And consulting companies can charge more for senior engineers. So everyone there was a senior engineer, leading to our first definition, expensive. The second thing I heard a lot is people who said, well, I've been developing a lot, I've been going back and forth, and I don't really have anywhere to go. I mean, I could pick up a new programming language, sure, let's try Python, and that'll stave off the boredom from another 8, 10 months. Then what? So the second definition I heard a lot was bored. I am a bored software engineer. Another popular one, opinionated. The senior engineer is the person in the room with the most opinions. My favorite, though, of all of these reactions I got was from Minnesota. This person said, in Minnesota, when you graduate with a CS degree and you go out into the wide world of work, your first title will be senior software engineer. And then, once you've got a lot of experience under your belt and you want to get promoted, you get promoted to senior architect. There's no mid-level architects in Minnesota, just senior ones. And finally, after years of dedication to the craft, you'll be promoted to senior fellow. When I first gave this talk, it was in London, and I had to explain what Minnesota was. The second time I gave this talk was in Minnesota, and everyone in the audience was like, yep. But of course, this ignores the one definition, the one thing that we all seem to think that's what senior means. Years of experience. However many years you have, that's, what is senior? 10 years, 12 years, 15, something like that. Or rather, you go to your boss and say, hey, I think I'm ready for that promotion. I've done a lot of good work around here. He says, well, it turns out that the number of years you need is the number of years you have plus 1. So what should senior mean? I mean, we use it a lot. We love the word. We toss it all the time. What are we trying to say? Now, sometimes, we describe where we are on a path. There's the whole night. It's about the engineering career path. Sometimes we build out 30 different levels in our engineering organization to try and figure out, are you a T 3.4 or a T 3.5? I think we need new words. We don't need yet another definition for senior. And as criteria for these words, they need to be quantifiable. Because if we just come up with more flowery language to replace previous flowery language, then it's not going to work. Now, years of experience, the one we all use, sort of is quantifiable. Yeah, sure. This many years of experience. Secondly, the words need to provide a path. A path is a thing that you go forward on. If it's just some sort of stepping stone where you somehow just jump out in a random direction and land, wherever you land, that's what the next step is. That's not a path. So we need some way to talk about how people grow and develop in their careers. Now, years of experience, the best way to provide a path forward in years of experience is to continue existing. How many people out there think morale in the office would be improved if you had a picture of a kitten with the caption, "Continue existing"? Man, either that office is really depressing or they really like kittens. And thirdly, they need to actually talk about the work we do. I mean, we do have that engineer bit on, software engineer. That's what software engineers. But a new engineer, someone who's just joining the industry, is going to do drastically different work than someone who's been around for a while and seen lots of different things. So we need to actually describe that. So what is that work we do as an engineering organization? This red bar at the top, let's imagine, this is a problem. This is a big problem. This is not a problem you can solve with just a simple function, even in Python. This is a company-wide problem. The problem may be, how do we mentor engineering leaders? For me, and I work at Netflix, the problem is when someone gets home at the end of the day and they flop down on the couch, we want the answer to their question, what do I do tonight, to be Netflix? Not HBO Go, not Amazon Prime, or, heaven forbid, broadcast television, if they still have that. And in order to do that, we can't just throw up one server on AWS. To get that, we need to break it down into its component parts. So we started breaking it down, and one of the things we need to do is have our servers need to be running. Netflix is down, no one's going to watch Netflix. And so in order to do that, you need a comprehensive monitoring and alerting service. But again, can't write a function. Break it down further. As part of that, you need a user interface that everyone uses to generate those alerts so they can be woken up when things are about to go very wrong. And that's what I do. I'm a UI engineer on the monitoring and alerting team. But still, I can't quite write a function, so I need to break things down further until I get to a solution. Now, a solution, there's no code yet. But I've taken this big problem and I've broken it down, until I get to the point where I can write a function. So maybe something like, how do I put an input box on the page where the user can input a percentage? That I can write a function for. So then I turn it into code. Actual code. Remember that thing we do. And all of these problems are all different shapes and all different sizes. And as the process of solving them, we need to figure out, how do you solve a octagonal-shaped problem? Have you ever heard the phrase, does someone have 10 years of experience or 1 year of experience repeated 10 times? Looks something like this. One person has solved square-shaped problems. They're pretty good at solving square-shaped problems. But any other shape, they're going to have a lot of trouble and struggle against it. Whereas on the right, we have someone who's tried, over their 10 years, solved all sorts of differently shaped problems. They have learned a lot more than the person who's only tackled squares. I talked a lot about words, so let's get to them. Here's what I think a good developer career path looks like. You start off as a solution implementer, just taking those basics, move on to a problem solver, start that breaking down process, and finally end up as a problem finder. We'll get to those. First step along the way, a solution implementer. This is actually the student who provided the story at the beginning. And a solution implementer, as leaders, what we need to do is give them solutions, and they turn it into code. And they hand it back to us, and we say, was that good? Was that bad? Give them feedback. Give them a differently shaped solution. Try this one on for size. How about this one, this one, this one? And eventually, those folks, those newcomers to the program, will get pretty good at turning solutions into code and figuring out why that solution was picked. And once they do that, it's your responsibility to increase their responsibility bubble just a little bit. They become a problem solver. Now, in the very beginning of the problem solver stage, they're only going to be moving up one bit. They're no longer going to be taking an input box and putting a percentage on it. They may break it down into that, maybe one layer. Well, they get that, and it's a particular shape, and they tackle a different one at the first layer, and a different one, and a different one, and a different one. They see all sorts of shapes and sizes, then move up a layer, and then solve some things that there, move up a layer, solve things that there, until they're solving pretty big problems, require lots and lots of thought and breaking down, and putting it all back together into an efficient, useful solution. Now, one thing to remember is they're still doing the implementing. They're just also grabbing that whiteboard and starting to break things down. Now, most software engineers are at this level. I give it a problem, I break it down, write some code, put it back together, throw in a pull request. But there's one level beyond that, and that's the problem finder. And at this level, it's your job as an engineering manager to stop handing them problems, because they've seen so many problems all around the world of software development, and so many different solutions that they can see in looking at a software product what needs to be done. And then break it down, implement it, put it back together, ta-da! One key tool in the problem finder's toolbox is prioritization. Because we can all find problems, that's the easy part. It's picking out which ones that need to be solved. That's hard. And of course, there's many different areas to work in. You can think of it somewhat like a step pyramid. Start off at the base and you have a lot of implementer skills, right? You know, I can write some code in Rust, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert. So maybe, you know, that's on the far end. Then you get up to the problem solver level, maybe a little narrower, and get things done there, until finally you reach that problem finder level in a few specific areas of discipline. You can, of course, this is a skill map for mapping out a career, figure out which direction you want to go in and which directions you're rated in. Because there's a whole lot of things to be done. Believe me, I'm sure every one of you has a whole long list of things that need to be done around the office. So, let's talk about where we go wrong. What things go a little belly up. Sometimes someone reaches that problem finder level and starts just doing finder work. They say, all right, that's a problem there, and then don't do anything about it. They just hand it off to someone else to solve. They don't care about it. They don't ever break things down. They don't ever figure out what it's like to implement things in the code base. They've forgotten what that's like. This anti-pattern, I believe, is called a software architect. Another thing I see is not mentoring implementers. I hear a lot of companies say, well, we don't hire juniors because they never work out. I mean, you're never going to have a 100% success rate on hiring. But if you have a 100% failure rate on hiring, that's something to worry about. You are failing the people you're trying to hire. And you need to mentor them because that's the whole job of a manager. To find the right size problems to give to people so they can break it down in their own way and put it back together. Finally, I'm a UI engineer. And something that happens elsewhere, but happens a lot in the UI world. It's what I call the UI squeeze. And what that happens is I was at a startup where all the project managers would go into the room at the start of every week, write down a list of things to do, and then throw them over the wall. We had to do them. But they wouldn't throw them to us. They'd throw them to the designers. And designers would take them and say, all right, I need to put this button here and arrange the UI just so and all that. They would throw that over another wall to the UI folks. It was our job to just implement. And of course, this was one of those companies that hired the best. And they were so concerned about their turnover rate in UI engineering when all we're doing is moving tickets from left to right. No one wants to be a senior ticket mover from left to right engineer. We want to build better things and see growth in our career. So the solution there is to give everyone a seat at that table at that initial meeting instead of just letting the project managers do all of that. Finally, how many people out there have heard of imposter syndrome? Good, a lot of hands, that's excellent. Imposter syndrome is when we are promoted to a level that we don't think we're qualified for. We feel like an imposter. Anyone ever felt that way? A lot of hands, that's good. Some honesty. And if we say, well, great, you're a senior engineer now. Fantastic. If we've never actually talked about what that means, no wonder if people feel like they're not qualified. But if we say, you're a problem finder now. Your job is to go out there, find interesting problems, break them down, and put them back together. My job is to provide context to you to figure out how to do that. That's a lot more detailed. And people can finally say, I actually do a lot of that and feel a lot better. So there you have it. Implementers, solvers, and finders. Start off with just the basics. Build people, give them bigger and bigger and bigger problems to solve. And eventually they'll start solving them on their own, and you can take a step back and start mentoring more folks. So thank you. That's my talk. You can clap now. And a quick pitch. I do work at Netflix, as mentioned, and we are hiring. So if you'd like to be my boss, let me know. Oh, excellent. So we only have 4 questions. Wow, I must have done a really good job. Okay, the first one is the obvious one. Why the hat? I was having a bad hair day, and I hoped no one would notice. No, but honestly, the hat is just because without the hat, I look boring.
Put it back on.
Yeah, indeed. I was at a conference once. I was talking to someone. I had the hat on the ground next to me, and I went to pick it up, and he's like, "Oh, I loved your talk." I had no idea who I was until I put the hat on. So I used to work for a company called Norse. So some of this came from because my boss there was very good at being a problem finder and giving challenging problems to us. And so that company no longer exists, but I'm at Netflix now, so that's a lot better. How do you train people to solve problems? Now, that's a hard one. There have been books and books and books and talks and everything given about mentorship. And I'm not quite sure if you can just train people. There's one universal way. But I know that giving people interesting challenges, that is something new to them. If you tell me to do the same thing again and again, I'm going to get bored. And I'm going to go find a company that wants me to do interesting things. To try and give people, think about it, maybe one level beyond what they can handle. Like, all right, this is a second level problem, but this person's only solved first level ones, but let's give them this because they've tried a lot of first level and build them out. So can someone with fewer years of experience find problems or solve them? Can they? Absolutely. That was a good part of my early part of my career. I never really had that implementer phase. And that meant I stumbled a lot and ran into a lot of walls and learned mainly by hitting things. And so I think it's possible. I think one of the big problems you're going to run into is trying to solve big problems without the context of lots of previously solved problems is you'll almost certainly solve it the wrong way. And it will take longer to put it back together again. And the other thing is anyone can really find problems. It's more so about the prioritization. Find the problems that need to be solved, not the ones that just exist. All right. Can you give examples of finding versus solving? Absolutely. So at Norse, one problem in particular, what we did is what we called cybersecurity threat intelligence, which is a really fancy way of saying, you know how everyone tells you don't open attachments from people you don't know? Well, we took all these emails from people we didn't know and opened all the attachments. And we took notes. But the problem was there's like 4 different groups that are all working on their own thing. And we've got the honeypot folks, and the malware folks, and the email folks. And they didn't talk to each other. So my boss, who's an excellent problem finder, said, all right, we're working fine now, but that's going to be a huge issue in a year. So we need to fix that now. So he came to me, and I was a technical lead at Norse. And he said, all right, here's the problem. What I think we need is a stream processor to help the teams all interconnect so that the email team can send stuff to the malware team discovers the URL, they can send it to the web crawler team. I said, great, one question, what is a stream processing system? What we did was that was a very large problem. But I took it, and my job was to break it down. I had to solve some of it myself, still technical, still writing code. For the rest of my team, I had to figure out where they were at in their own career and break it down. So some I said, all right, I need you, if you just break off a large chunk, because I know that you can take it. You'll go work for a week and come back and say, hey, this is what I've come up with. And others, he's like literally had to write out tickets and explaining, because they're new. They're still learning, still figuring out the ropes. Cool. What is special about Netflix you've never seen elsewhere? We only hire problem finders. That is really, part of this talk came out of me getting hired there and going, what on earth am I doing? So I think that's one special thing. Another special thing is I think we're the only company that I've worked for, so don't worry about your company unless I've worked there, that to get the idea of a flat structure right. So the engineering side of things is flat, the management side of things is not. And the engineers, as engineers, we have total freedom and autonomy over our work as problem finders to find problems and build them out. And our manager's job is to go find context for us and figure out, what do you do in the company, and how can I help you do that better? How do you find mentors? I hear there's a startup that does that. What is a good mix between finders, solvers, implementers, and managers? So I think a manager can still follow the same path. It's just at the end, the solution isn't code, it's people. And it's a little more vague, but yeah, it's management. So a good mix, I think that, I don't want to give out any ratios, but having all three can lead to an incredibly effective company, because one of the best problems to hand to your problem finders is mentorship. Is to say, all right, part of your job here is to help all of the people who are less experienced than you gain more experience, which is really tough. And some engineers don't want to do that, and that's okay, but a lot of engineers are really interested in helping others. So to make sure you have that mix is important. You can be a very bottom-heavy company. I've seen a lot of people just hire entire swaths of boot camp grads and then wonder why nothing ever gets done because they haven't provided any structure. Is the myth of the 10x engineer real? No. The original paper was about the worst engineer compared to the best engineer, and we keep talking about people who are 10x the average. So if you're looking at the original paper, that did not happen. There is, but I do believe the worst engineers are probably negative value. So, math. If someone is a problem finder, doesn't that mean they're a problem creator? Oh, I lost it. So if someone's a problem finder, does that mean they're a problem creator? Absolutely not. We have a chaos team at Netflix. We're infamous for our chaos monkeys and chaos kongs, where we're deliberately causing problems in production with real servers that serve data to real people. And the chaos team is great because what they tell me is we don't create problems, we find them. If your server was going to go down when we killed one of the servers with Chaos Monkey, it was going to go down. We were just able to control when. So you already had that problem. So I don't think it's a problem creator. I have worked with engineers who are problem creators, but that's an entirely different issue. How to reconcile my concepts with the career progression level definitions of many large organizations. I guess I'm not picking on Google here. I just happen to know what their thing is. So it's like start off at like T2 or T3 and you go up to like T Jeff Dean or T11 or something like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm sure you have some fantastic examples of that from the panel afterwards. They've done a lot of work in this as well. I think it's possible to kind of quantify where, and like I've only provided 3 levels, but you can absolutely break that down and say like, I'm just getting started as a problem finder. I know there's so much more, I can be so much better and more effective, but I know that's where I'm at, just over the cusp. So if you have a long career progression, I don't think that's a bad thing. You can definitely overlay this on top of that. Which is a better engineer, jack of all trades versus a subject matter expert, whichever one you need at the time. I happen to be more of a jack of all trades myself, but also on my team is some people who are just some of the top 5 people in the world at what they do. And they do one thing and they do it so incredibly well But that's what they do. It's fantastic. And being able to work with them and kind of have the best of both worlds is useful. So if you're a startup, you probably want more of the jack of all trades unless you're working on a very specific engineering problem. The subject matter expert is useful. So.
Last question.
Last question. All right. How to ensure problem finders don't lose track of state-of-the-art techniques they don't practice anymore? Problem finders should practice. Problem finders don't just find problems. That's the architect. That's the person who just tells everyone else what to do. Problem finders find problems, break them down, and implement them. And then they put it all back together. And then they go tell other people how to be better implementers and give talks and stuff. So, last question. Thank you.